And what it is a Sunday afternoon. I'm sleeping. I'm getting myself briefed up, and a few thoughts are running my mind. Thinking about here we go. Thinking about the vision I have for this company, the vision I have for VentureMap, and how it's the same that it has been for years, and how it's different than what it has been before. In some ways, we're guided by some level of foundational truth about reality, about humans endeavoring, about having a picture in our mind of future state and understanding a path forward where we can material and leveraging best practices and principles to an environment sensing, construct and formulate and forge a strategy that reduces risk, reduces uncertainty, and incrementally validates our well-structured thinking about it. In so many ways, the vision is the same. Years and years ago, we began with a small team and a big idea. The company was started as Valdeon, two words mixed together, Vald and an alternative for the spelling Val, as there was Valdeon. And we found ourselves in such a place after I spent close to a decade in the fitness industry as a professional trainer, what it meant to facilitate human movement practice. And something that we realized, something that became pretty important to us was, let's see, this concept of, well, first of all, we studied a couple foundational things: gamification, virtual training, voice assistant, computer vision. We studied technologies, and we were considering what a core technology could be like that referenced a movement archive, and then that technology could be applied in vertical markets. Well, here we go. This is a conceptual proof of concept system architect. Special thanks to my dad for enabling this, for Theronski's work here. Fantastic work, Dad. I appreciate it. We had this vision to construct this foundational capability. And we did a lot of research on pose estimation and movement tracking. And you think, okay, Logan, here we go. And me as a trainer, I'm like, okay, check this out. Yeah, there needs to be knees caving in. You're in a squat, or back rounding. Like, there needs to be bad or even good data. And if we're tracking it, somehow the AI has to know if these points are somewhere that either informs good or bad, and then we have to know what to do about it. I'm looking for this one. You can tell how I felt back in these days. And so many ways, nothing has changed. I'm quite obsessed with the idea of having everything in a coherent order of operations. You can tell how we were just starting to play around in Neuro and not entirely sure what to do with it, but we landed here. And my dad put together this spectacular, cool deck. And this is something that I suppose was my primary contribution to the thinking here. And alongside of my father, we mapped this process out. Like the natural process. Imagine a trainer and a client providing guidance. That person receives it, reacts to it. Put it yourself in the gym. All right, John, we're going to do 5 pull-ups. Let's get after it. John's like, jumps up, grabs the bars. He's doing it. Now, what are we doing as coaches? We're observing. We're actually watching. That's why we're getting paid. It's a big beast. We're getting paid for the guidance, the output, and we're getting paid for the observation. Like, you're doing what we told you to do. How's it going? And then we think. You actually have to do some work to think. There's like an analysis phase. Okay, is John being all like weird on his way up on the pull-up bar? Is he indicating severe pain in the subscap region? Like, consider we give guidance, something happens, we take that data into observation, and then we analyze the data, which informs follow-on guidance. Somebody doing squats and their knees are caving in. It's like, by the way, that's not right. Push your knees out. Somebody's doing squats and they're caving forward. We know not much analysis is required in this case, but we know that's not a good thing. Put the chest up, right? Big chest, straight back type of thing. But during these days, I had been increasingly doing more and more virtual training, virtual personal training, and not just async, which is really popular because easier in some ways, though harder, much harder in others. easier from the trainer's perspective because they don't have to do that much work besides programming and DMing and maintaining accountability. Harder for the end user because of the data entry requirements and the lack of visual anchors in their three-dimensional environment, right? Somebody at meat and flesh is standing in a gym waiting for you at a specific time and place. You're so much more likely to be there. It's anchor in space-time that like pulls you into it. But if it's just something stupid on your phone, like a freaking app, shoot, who cares, bro? You know, whatever. I find Instagram, I'm not that invested. Or even if you're invested and you're really tight with your trainers, like it's 50,000 pixels. How many pixels are on these stupid things? 1,000 pixels compared to the entirety of my environment and life and in my state of subjective awareness rolling through time. Like, you know, it's infant freaking tesimal, despite the fact of how ridiculous pieces of crap are. It's like when you're doing remote training, personal training, one-on-one or super small group, like 3 people, 2 or 3 people. After that, it gets really difficult. And it becomes a more like Orange Theory type of a thing where it's just like, enter, do this, or tonal or Peloton, like, get on the bike and let's go. And you're kind of just doing your with them at a certain point. You see somebody who's like smoke is coming out of their ears. It's like, hey, dial it down a bit. So you can hit like fringe and outlier regions. So some mom at Orange Theory's doing the bench press with like 45s and they're wobbling like a used car salesman blow up guy. Like, hey, Sandy, let's bring those weights down to like 25s. Okay. Stability is key. You can only do so much at that point when you're doing group training. And the same goes in the virtual environment. So the problem really I was obsessed about in these days was the fact that it was a fragmented process, because if it's like the majority of the stuff, it's a YouTube video, it's an app that's async and delivering canned stuff. Even if it's custom stuff, it's delivering it basically as a video or some guidance via text or interactivity with flicks. It's basically one way. It just spews out, here's the demonstration, right? And that's the same as it is in the gym. And one-to-one or one to a small group virtual personal training when we're literally on Zoom, which is Zoom training, right? Nothing really fancy. We're still giving guidance. So there's still that output. The person then reacts to some capacity. They try to do it. The difference from there is it doesn't loop back through. It requires manual data entry. The person literally's got it. All right. Time to do 5 squats, time to do 15 squats, time to do 10 pull-ups, whatever it is. Like, start doing it and maybe do all of them, maybe not. And then just count it off and be like 3 or 30 or whatever. Choose the weight, choose the reps, enter. It's so Excel spreadsheet. The kid these days would say giving doomer, right? It's just Office Space. What's that movie? Office Space movie. Yeah, it's this, right? You know, welcome trainer. Like, welcome. Yeah. It's this. It really sucks. Like, nobody wants that. So from there, there's just guesswork, right? You get off the pull-up bar, you're like, dang, that felt weird. Or you get off the bench press and you're like, I pushed through the pain. Or your hips are hurting or the knees are hurting in the squat or your back's hurting. Guesswork. Maybe the app or whatever you're using, if it's async, is really detailed and complex. And you can say, hey, shoulders hurting or too heavy, too light. You know, there's adaptive stuff that people have done even in the last 5 years since this deck was put together in 2019. So the big idea here is at scale, you can't imagine having an army of trainers to do this at scale. Because if you can really only do, if one highly trained coach can only virtually train or physically, but virtually, like personal training, high level concierge personal training is different than fitness instruction. And it's different than group personal training. That's a different thing. So one-to-one or 1 to 3. That's my position on it. I think you go above 3 people, it's really difficult from a psychological standpoint. It's really difficult from an executive standpoint. You being able to make decisions and observe starts spreading too thin. 3 is a sweet spot at the max. So whether it's virtual, whether it's in person, there's variables to consider for both, but just from a process standpoint, if you're going to try to do virtual training as a business to solve that problem, you're going to either be super limited on your ability, the amount of people you can train,
So you could be super specialized, super high end, charge $8,500 an hour, 120 an hour even, if and beyond. So then it's like, okay, well, you're going to be doing what, 5, 6 clients a day, maybe 7 or 8 if you're a monster, maybe beyond that, who knows? But then if you're doing that every single day, you have to leave room for the other stuff. You have to leave room for, at the very least, alignment if you're not responsible for the sourcing and the sales and everything else, not to mention admin, whatever. So there's a cap for the amount that's can be done. And likewise, from the management standpoint of this sort of company, this sort of play, if you're dealing with all the marketing, all the sales, the sourcing and the selling of clients and management of the staff and finance and legal and IT and performance and everything else and culture, if you're responsible for all of that, you always want to have high integrity, of course, but you always want to ensure that the promise you make in your value proposition is delivered on fulfillment. In fact, you actually want to be over delivering, surprising and delighting through a narrative driven experience. You have long running lifetime value. Your average contract value is very high. Your revenue per employee is very high. The multiplier in EBITDA, again, very freaking high. Enterprise value when compared to industry peers is very high. And you become an acquisition target from that very early stage on, again, very favorable terms. These are things that are really important if you're going to be playing the game. So we said, what is personal training? What is this professional virtual personal training? Fundamentally, it's a video feed. If I'm on Zoom, it's literally a video feed. It's coming out. Now I'm on the other side. There's a camera pointing at me. I'm kind of like, all right, ladies, we're going to stretch the arms overhead. And I kind of put the camera back and, all right, guys, capsule stretch. Jab that left arm and then moving. So it's like, hey, I didn't see what you did with your foot because it's fun. Their end on an iPad freaking mini on the couch somewhere. So viewports are a different part of this discussion. When we're 3D, way better because I'm like, hey, all right, stretch. I'm showing we're going to curl, we're going to press, we're going to squat. I'm in 3D with you. The viewport is completely unobstructed because we're standing next to each other. When we're doing it in a augmented fashion, when it's technologically mediated, we're constrained to the machine perception capabilities on site, or on target, on my environment. I guess 3, 4 different cameras. I could be shot in real-time 4K, blah, blah, blah. Steven freaking Spielberg could be directing it. But if you're watching on an iPhone 5 with spotty internet, it's going to suck. So the viewports, I just need to clarify, are a different element, though of course they're important, but it's just out of alignment with where we're at here. So the big thing is this, folks. Like fundamentally, if we're going to try to scale virtual personal training, if we're going to try to scale this, the promise of our brand's value proposition, the thing we're telling people we will do, the transformation we will facilitate, the value we will render in exchange for the investment they're making in us, like, has to be virtual. It has to have a virtual context to it at the very least in the early stages, probably midterm stages as well. If I was running the show, that's how I was thinking then. And frankly, I'm thinking that now more than ever. The projection, just recording a bunch of workout videos, I've done that by my hand. I've had hundreds, if not thousands, of exercise training videos produced for these types of efforts. And the person on the other side being like, okay, I get it. And then trying to do it too. That's the last step before everything goes crazy. Again, observation and analysis. This is not possible with P90X. This is not possible with traditional means of virtual training. Now, Peloton tracks your speed, tracks your cycles, tracks your calories, tracks your time. So there is observation, there's perception, machine perception. There's inputs that aren't necessarily requiring manual entry. All right, so running out of time, we got to wrap this little soliloquy up. All right. Even if you're on a Peloton, even if you're on a tonal, even if you're on a full, right? Any of these higher end, more sophisticated, I know there's a new one that just came out, RE influencers were in white and such. Point is, it's still not seeing you. And it's not active. I mean, I have yet to see a use case where they're actively listening as well. And there's discussions around data security and privacy and blah, blah, blah. But still, if you're in a gym working out with a trainer, they see you, they hear you. You better freaking hope they do because you're paying for that. That's a big piece of what you're paying for. Or have the dude actually watch you and make sure you're doing it right, not going to kill yourself or blow out a meniscus, hurting at a disc. But more than that, just like make progress, lose fat, build muscle, feel better, etc. So them seeing you is an issue. Who knew freaking computer vision was such a thing, right? Yours truly did not. I guess I knew about Teslas and whatnot back then, but I had yet to be fully immersed in this big idea of computer vision. And yeah, we just did a deep dive on like kindergarten level. Like, what is it at the most fundamental level? What is happening? Coach is sending audio and video. And it's basically coming out on the user side as audio and video. And then based on that stimuli, based on that input, other user is sending information that's formatted as audio and video and coming out on the displays and the microphones. It's like, okay. We started contemplating a situation where there was a live coach, and we weren't the first ones to do this. Stanford was doing Ken Sensei. When was this thing? For 2016. This type of thing is not like we were following brilliant people who would set so much of the foundation for this, even thinking. We're like, okay, well, what's the big difference? If it looked photorealistic enough in all of these, if you didn't see Sim Sensei back then, it looked like video game character from the early 2000s. No one's going to think that this gal is actually on the phone, or the coach is actually a real person. And that's going to have constraints because it's uncanny and it's data, it's whatever. But like, what if it was actually photorealistic? Just assuming it was, it would still be, what would it be doing? Well, it'd be sending audio and video. And that's basically speech synthesis and like photorealistic human avatars. We collected researching all this stuff to kind of, this is basically what it would be, but it would be this model that's rigged and aligned with speech synthesis. And then they would have a photorealistic rendering type of thing. So super complex. And we're starting to learn about Turing tests. So, right. Wow. That's pretty terrifying. Anyways, it got so deep down this space where we're like, okay, these grid coordinates in 3D space are being interpreted by an RGB 2D camera, and then like spatialized through algorithms because we can't afford to do this sort of stuff. We're looking up other people that were doing this and technology required to do it, how there's a golden ratio. For example, there's a right way to do a squat, but that right way is relative based on the individual mechanics of the person we're dealing with. And not everyone's, you could be 6'2", but have a different femur length than another person who's 6'2". So this is different. And then that affects the mechanics of the movement. So there's a golden ratio for every individual that's based on one unifying golden ratio. It just got devastatingly complicated because then it's like, okay, well, we're going to basically transcribe what they're saying and analyze it in real time. We'll get a key point file. We'll get a transcribed text file, upload that to the cloud, classify it. Then we're going to have multiple levels of bots. Then there's going to be a generative AI component. That's kind of funny. From early 2020 to be talking Gen AI. Thanks, Terrence Keys, for that one. Thank you, Devin. So as we push forward, it's like, then we have the user interface, and that's a service provider, and that loops. And as you imagine, that was pretty wild. So then anyways, COVID just crashed down. We had a number of vertical markets under consideration. Obviously, I would default to fitness, marine infantry, fitness. That's been like the name of the game for making money and surviving since I got on the course. That's been how I put food on the table. One of the academics and the smart folks, the smarty pants business folks who write books where it's B2C, a consumer market. And then all of a sudden I'm like, hey guys, COVID's hitting, angel investors, and they're not going to be shelling out cash for this sort of a project. Friends and family are already extended into hardware and flight and gas tickets and interns and blah, blah, blah. It's like, we're dead in the water on this. I'm going to need to like get a job or whatever in that days. And that it was like more clients and get all these in keynotes and Google Docs, air awards. It's like, we're just going to get clients. And hopefully I can train them with PRXs and resistance bands via Zoom. And do whatever this proprietary hardware thing that we're contemplating, that will come down the road, but let's just start here. And we're still going to be validating our hypotheses. So I'm like, all right, we're going to do a business model canvas, value proposition, and the list goes on and on. We kind of just figured out splicing together different book and different courses and stuff. We got through that, and we ended up showing the board to a mentor of mine, a mentor that was assigned at the startup accelerator I was involved with. And I show him this board that we're working on, and I just look, don't quit your day job there. It's something about that patronizing, doubting response burned a place in my ego, probably our sight, but my soul off was so just like, how can you not see this? How can you not see the potential? But it did cause me to take a hard look at it and be like, well, admittedly, this makes absolutely no freaking sense. Nothing in here is organized. And this is our first ever hero. No idea what to do with it. Okay, and I was frustrated, and I told my co-founder and colleague at the time, Mr. Jack, and said, listen, everything from now on needs to be stakeholder presentation, pitch deck style stuff, everything we do, because we can't be pitching these stakeholders that are just briefing our stakeholders and crap that they don't even know what they're looking at. Like, it has to actually look, just watch a time putting our learnings down in a format that was a little cleaner. We mapped out the fitness experience we could deliver to clients, and got a bunch of videos, it's called posting, and what ended up happening. So I basically mapped out a workout routine. There's going to be this cool augmented, who knows, maybe I should actually go back and do this. It might be fun. Oh, anyways, I showed that to one of my old fitness clients who was a doctor and a functional medicine practice, and had been a good friend for many years now. At that point, I was on the board of directors for her foundation. And anyways, we come on a Zoom call to do a directors meeting at one point, and we're talking. And as the story goes, we just ended up, she saw some of what I was doing in Euros. What is that? It's a map. Conversation progressed to, can you do that for us? I think so. That sounds, it's kind of like this demand thing that they're talking about. I kind of like the feeling of this. Let's see. I don't know what it means to make a mural board for somebody, but I don't like consulting. We taught ourselves how to do project plans, and I'll leave it at this because I have 2 minutes. So we cleaned it up. Did it once, we got to do it again. And after we did it again, you probably heard me tell the story. Then we started contemplating, well, there's more to this, right? We're going to map out the business. Let's map out the freaking business. And I'll call the story of Project Leviathan someday soon. That was a descent towards madness. And I'm grateful for all time for Jack's willingness to join. That'll be for now. Project planning is something that we take so seriously. I have been wrestle with this beast. It just isn't visually. It's not as coherent as I aspire, but I'm just going to do it the conventional method. This is basically what we're delivering in VentureMap, basically for free. It's basically for free. It's $97 a month right now for the initial chain members that get in. And we're honestly, and they extend that to 2050. I don't know. Just plain, I'm less concerned about that as I am the validation of need and the validation of buying power and offer attractiveness and conversion processes, LTV to CAC ratio, or CAC to LTV ratios, and our upsell mechanism and everything else. So that being said, we've come so far. This week starts the first week where I am basically doing what took months and hours. Special thanks to a series of tools. Special thanks to ChatGPT 4.0, 01, Gamma, to 11 Labs, to Artlist, to Descript, to Runway ML, to probably Claude, a few others. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. And this is right in the wake of having my 5-year operations partner, co-founder, Jack, for tangenting, diverging, wooding from the pack, and pursuing full-time, deeply embedded new founders opportunity. I'm very stoked for him. It's a natural next step. It's in alignment with our long-term succession plan as owners for VentureMap and how we see this unfolding and manifesting into the future. Fundamentally, it's democratization. It is the distribution of our learnings in the most accessible, relevant, compelling, efficient, and effective manner possible. And that is being done, make no mistake about it, through our Skool community. We're really stoked about this Skool community. We believe that where this free Skool community is going is the absolute future. That's VentureMap free. We've got so much planned. We have so much work left ahead of us to get all of this into a format that works and makes sense. I do have a full breakdown on where we're going here in this post, but what we're doing is democratizing and fully distributing, open sourcing the framework that we've established and the methodology that we forged. Blood, sweat, and tears over half a decade. And if you look at it over the course of my career, now we're rounding the bend towards over a decade of diligent persistence. During my time in the Marine Corps, my whole professional career has brought me to this point. Then it's rounding the bend on 15 years of pursuit. That's exciting to be able to put your life's work and your level of understanding out and give it to the world and think, is there any value here? Is there any way I can help others based on what I've learned, based on what I've seen to be true, based on what I've seen work more often than not? And that's something I'm thankful to the Lord for the opportunity, are excited to work with great people. We're giving all the what and the how away in this free community. And we're also giving away time, my personal time, to connect with every single person who wants to for an hour straight to get them spun up, get them actually started, because they can do it on their own. And now, as a trainer, I suppose it's important to flex from time to time what I'm doing in the elite community, which is just now live. It's just launched. This is the craziest thing I've ever done. And I'm so equally excited and challenged by this. Such a challenge. There's such a King Kong chest beating moment. But if it's possible for me, I know it'll be possible for others, and that we're going to assemble a team of certified VentureMap operators. We're going to deploy those operators into embedded engagements as strategy execution specialists within organizations, where they're providing operations, leadership, advisory, and implementation support, direct implementation support. It's going to be a fantastic precursor to blasting through and into the wood line, establishing a stronghold where we can then implementing automations, AI agents, and autonomous, intelligent forces throughout entire business. That's the thing that moves the needle in the coming world. And that coming world is upon us today. That's what VentureMap is all about. We have to be able to deliver the insight required at a second-to-second basis, at a minute-to-minute basis. So when you look at it through that lens, you think, oh, actually, when we do it, despite long, 1 week to get one iteration for everything in the sim, that's quite long. It's going to be minute to minute, but we need the community as a validation study to show that platform can come to life. And frankly, how that platform will come to life, because the requirements, the needs, the realities we find through this work together will inform the actual user interface, user experience, database, integrations, automations, everything required to bring the SaaS play to life. But the insight is what we have solved for at the repository level, at the SOP level, at the template for work product and deliverable level. We've solved that. So we're working to compress the timeline to delivery on the production side, and we're working to reduce the barrier to entry for the marketplace. Then we're investing our full effort into decision-making support and action or strategy execution support. That's our implementation tier. We are so stoked to launch that. I'm going to drop all that content as soon as I can. I've got everything staged. Just a few more tweets. I got to go. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.